Okay, so these are the tools that I tried to use and experimented with during this process. And the thread awl, it'll get the job done. You know, if that's what you need, then so be it. It'll work just fine. A little bit of extra effort and work. It's not as heavy duty as the ball joint press. No matter which tool you choose to use or have the ability to use or available to you, make sure that you get something to take up the space in between the layers of the arm. You know, get this in there so it doesn't bend the arm. And this is the way I set up the ball joint press. I actually put this in a vise, and this part was sticking up in the air straight up. And this will get the bushing started. And if this isn't the right size to get mostly pushed through, you might have to substitute maybe a socket that's the right size to go through the hole of the arm. And then other than that, this was the easiest option, bar none. So worst case scenario, like I said, you have to take this piece out and substitute it for a socket to push that bushing, just that little bit of extra to get it to come loose. You don't have to press it all the way through. Once it gets broke loose and moved back a little bit, it'll generally come out on its own. So anyway, there you go. I'm gonna clean this bench off. We're gonna finish up what we have to do on these arms. Okay, so these are the bushings that we're gonna put in. The aluminum housing with the metal sleeve in the middle, and it's filled with Delrin. Get one of these apart. It's aluminum outside, the Delrin sleeve, and a metal insert. This will be pinched by the frame, and these are just like thrust bushings to keep it centered where it belongs. And there's one for the front and one for the back. This one will be for the front. It's a little bit smaller, and of course we've got this one here for the back. So we've got to get these pressed out and get these pressed in. Then I can clean it up, tape these off preferably, and paint it and get it installed in the frame. What I need to do is get these bushings out. But you can see, like on this bushing, I hope you can see this. This bushing over the years has been flared out, kind of like a copper gas pipe or something of the sort. The pressure of the rubber and the bouncing on the road and stuff like that has mushroomed it out. So it's not going to go back through because it's a lot bigger now. So I'm going to have to grind that off. And I don't want to hurt the arm right there, so I'm going to have to be careful doing that. Also, I want to remove the rubber and get it out of the way. And I can probably do that with this drill with a wire wheel. It's old rubber. It'll probably just disintegrate it and peel it right off. If not, you can take a knife and cut along the edge, and then a pair of wire cutters, whatever you feel necessary, and just peel that off, get it out of your way. Because what we have is, once we get the rubber down, all four of the bushings, and get these flared areas cleaned up, is I've taken some sockets that are the exact size of the bushings, and we're going to utilize those to press these out along with this thread awl. This is stuff you can get at a hardware store. You can borrow the bigger sockets if you need to. I got a piece of exhaust pipe. It's just big enough to go over the bushings. That's the biggest bushing, and it has very little slop, so it's as big as it needs to be and no bigger. It's a little bit bigger than the small bushing, but it stays on the arm pretty good, so this here will do just fine. So I'll show you what I'm going to do, but I need to get this cleaned up first. I need to get this flare cleaned up, get the rubber off of there, get that out of the way, and then I'll show you what's going on after that. So I'll be cleaning this up first. Oh yeah, one last thing. Flip this around so I can see it. This, if you're doing this kind of stuff in your driveway, This can be anything, a sandwich bag, a piece of saran wrap. You know, you're drilling holes in metal and you're grinding and you're cutting, and you know, you got your kids running around. Well, you just take one of these and put some old speaker magnets inside, and you can pick up your debris off the ground or off the sidewalk or, you know, driveway, whatever. And then when you're done, you just take it and turn it inside out. Take your magnets and go throw away your junk. There you go. Okay, so we're going to move forward by taking this this mushroom off of both of these arms, and we're going to be done with that, and then we're going to go ahead and start the press. Okay, so this is what's going to happen. We're going to take this thread off. Oops. We're going to put a nut on there, and a couple of washers, a metal plate that's reasonably thick so it won't bend. We're going to put a piece of exhaust pipe on there that's just the right size, and that's going to allow the bushing to slide into the exhaust pipe and come out of the arm. So we're going to take the socket that happens to be the right size for this particular bushing and put it on there next. A couple more washers, and we're going to nut it up. And we're going to hold the piece of pipe in place. We're going to snug this up. Try to get the socket right where it needs to be. Snug it up good. The exhaust pipe is where it needs to be. This piece of metal is basically in the middle of the pipe. And I've got 2 wrenches. Snug it up a little bit. And these extra wrenches, these are for extra leverage. We're going to put this in there. As long as this is in there and it's reasonably tight, it's going to be pretty hard to damage the arm. You can do it, but you have to be getting kind of crazy. So this extra leverage, if I need it anyway, would lock into these wrenches. And don't do what I do, so you know, you need to make your own decisions. It gives you lots of leverage if you need it. So we're just making our own little press is all we're doing. Alright, so this plate on the backside is reasonably thick, but it's still bending, it's folding, so I'm going to take it loose and add some thicker plates. So I want the weak link to be this thread all. It's either going to do the job or it's not. Everything else needs to hold up. So I'll take it loose and add some extra plates. It's moving. Okay, let's have a look. So far, so good. There we go, there's one. Okay, since I'll have to change this for each one because they're all a little different. It's just the nature of a factory pressed arm like this. I'm I'm going to go ahead and put this one back in, and then that way I can change this to the next size and do that one, and I'll finish that one to the point where it's back in as well before I change this again. So I'm going to finish this one while this is trimmed down for that hole. So I'm going to get that bushing. Okay, we're going to clean up these holes while we have the chance. That's not going to work. I'm just going to take some pieces of this sandpaper. Just going to clean them up, get the scale and rust out of there a little bit. Check for sharp edges. So we're not looking to change the size of this, so don't take anything to it like a file or anything. If you do, on some of these arms, this lip faces the other way. And as the bushing comes into it from this direction, if this lip's on the other side, it's going to catch, and it'll start peeling back on the metal, gouging it out. So you'll want to take a file and take just the edge off. You're not trying to open up the face, the flat face. You're just taking off the corner at an angle. So don't touch the actual face with the file. We're going to clean off where the bushing is going to face down on there. Okay, let's remember before we get started that you need to have access to all of these grease zerks. So as this thing sits on the car, it's going to be sitting in pockets back here, so it's going to be accessible at an angle. So you want to angle this towards the center of the car a little bit, not too far, because then you'll be in a bind and you'll be hitting this instead of getting the grease gun on the zert. So angle it back so that it's just right towards the center of the car, so you have room so you don't hit the arm itself with the grease gun. And if you go too far back, the frame's going to be in the way. It'll be inside the pocket, so you don't want that. So the general idea is to aim it so that the hose of the grease gun will come near that wall on the arm. And call that good. That'd be a good spot. So make sure you do that for all the bushings. Make sure it's in a spot where you can get to it. Okay, now we're just going to reverse it. That's going to come over on this side. Now we're just going to center it up and push it back in. This time the bushing is going to go this direction and have space to move with nothing to hit. And this should be able to flatten it out. We just need to make sure that we got the bushing going straight. You know, you don't want it to catch the edge and get crushed or damaged. Leave it like this until I get the other ones done. Then I'm going to grease them up and assemble them. We're just going to pack these with grease. And we want to use a special grease for that, a nice synthetic grease. preferably one that's kind of waterproof or water resistant. You know, once these things come loose, you never know, we might get lucky, so let's give it a shot. Oh, looky there. We win. Alright, just like the first one, I'm going to clean this face up right here. That's where the bushing is going to lay up against the arm, and that's where the other lip was at for the other bushing. So all of this was underneath that bushing lip. I'll clean it up. I'll clean out the inside a little bit with some sandpaper. Don't want to get too aggressive with that. I don't want to change the size of the hole. Just get the discoloration off a little bit. And I'm going to clean up inside here a little bit so that I can clean it up easier later. So I'll clean it up in here a little bit, just get the heavy stuff off so I can tape off the bushing and paint it later. I really just, after getting grease build up and, you know, caked on grime that's over the years, like I said, we would be doing this a whole different way if I was going to turn this into a show car. This is going to be a toy, I guarantee it. If it starts raining, you're not going to see me cry, you know, because I'm just going to keep driving it. It's a driver. It's nothing more. So I'm going to clean this up the best I can, get all the buildup off, and get a nice coat of paint on it, just so it's nice and shiny when it goes back together. But like I said, if it rains, I'm going to drive it. You know, the only thing I won't do is I probably won't drive it in the salty winter, you know. I'll keep it out of the salt, but I'm going to drive the car. So, well, I want to get this as smooth as possible and as clean as possible and call that good enough. Paint it up so it's nice and shiny in one color for reassembly, and we'll take care of it the best we can from there. And the car is going to come apart again in the future. I mean, it's just bound to happen. So I can paint more if I have to later. Anyway, I'm going to continue cleaning this up to the point to where it's good enough that I can hit it with soap and water and a scuff pad later and go ahead and get the bushing in. So this is only the second one, so we got this one and 2 more to go. Okay, as promised, we're going to do a little bit of shop time today. So right now I got this arm set in this press. So far what we've done is I've showed you that it can be done with, you know, plates of steel and some thread awl and a piece of exhaust pipe. I changed a couple of the bushings with that one. This press, it's not big enough to accept this whole arm, so I had to go through the other bushing to get that one to push out. And this is the bushing that was flared that I had to grind off. I'm hoping I ground off enough. I didn't want to grind off too much and damage the arm. I wanted to just grind away at the bushing lip. But so we're going to knock this bushing out, and I'm going to knock the other bushing out of the other arm. And I don't want to rig too many things on this press. So going back together, I'm going to show you that you can also use, excuse the camera guys moving around so much, but a ball joint press. You can easily use a ball joint press to do this work, and you can get these at AutoZone, O'Reilly's, that kind of place. They'll rent them or even loan them. So either way, we're going to get this done, and through all of these tools you can see what's available to use. I'll give you a little bit of a shop tour if you want. This is my brother's garage. This is just where we do some work every once in a while. He does a lot of work in here himself. It's his. So, but so far I've showed you that we can get this done, you know, with just hand tools pretty much. Of course I had a welder for some extra projects, you know, like welding the frame and stuff, but not everybody does that. So I just wanted to show you that that type of work can be done without the machine shop tools. So I'm going to press that bushing out, and I'm going to switch it over. We're going to do the other arm and get that bushing out, and we're going to put the bushings back in, probably with a ball joint press. So I don't want to finagle this press. It's a little too small for this big arm, and do anything that's going to damage the bushing or get somebody hurt. So, but I should be able to get it apart the way it's set up. So we'll do that. See, we're using a socket so that the bushing can push down inside the socket. I got another socket that's the same size as the bushing on there, and these are impactable extensions. I probably shouldn't be using an extension, so don't do what I do. Do it the right way. So we're going to try and press this out. Worst case scenario, I got to take it back out and grind off that lip a little bit more. Oh, there it goes. It's a moving.
It's going in.
Yeah. Oh, it's moving. Yep. Yep, as soon as that seats down, we're good. That should be enough. Yep, that one's in. It didn't turn out so bad. Okay, one more. Maybe. Okay, so that'll fit. What do I got? That'll work. That's a pretty good angle. So what we're going to do, we got to make sure this grease zerk's in the right spot so you can get to it, right? overly comfortable with that. I need to have a look. Looks pretty decent. Nope. I just felt it bottom out. We're done. Not bad. I always mess that up. Looks pretty good. Okay, so we're going to do the final stages of finishing up these control arm bushings. I've finished the cleanup. I've got them painted up. And I tried to tape off the bushings the best that I could. Nobody's going to see them because I'm not going to show this car. I'm not going to, you know, I probably won't even show it off a whole lot. At least not to this extent that somebody's going to see this. I just wanted to keep it neat and kind of tidy, so I went ahead and taped them off a little bit when I did the painting. But right now we're going to finish it up. So first thing we're going to do is put the grease zerks in. And as you can see, when we're putting them together, we got them pointing towards the center of the car a little bit. We're actually, yeah, about halfway to the center of the car. And they're at the angle that the grease gun, its hose, won't interfere and hit anything. And these are small, so it doesn't take a whole lot of pressure to make them tight because they will snap off. You see the angle, that hose will come right in there and it won't interfere there. So that's about the right angle for the grease zerks. What you want to do is you want to pack this with as much grease as you can get in there and get it good and lubricated for the first assembly. And you want as much grease as you can get inside the grooves. There's grooves in here for grease to travel. You want to fill them grooves as much as possible. And you want to keep a coat on the outside lip here. That's why we've taped off. You definitely want to tape off the outside edge. This flat face, that's where the washer is going to go, and it's going to spin there actually. So you want to get a little bit of lubricant on there, and you don't want the paint in between there. That should be good for the initial assembly. And we're going to grease these up a little bit. And we're not going to forget this metal piece either. So this has got to come off as well. And this needs to get, this metal piece here needs to get a little bit as well. Get a good coat on there. Get some of this on the inside. This can get a little bit messy, but it'll clean off. So now this is a synthetic grease. It's not waterproof, but it's very water resistant. This is a Poly Z12. Came from Neo Synthetic Oil. I have to admit, these guys, I have no affiliation with them, but they went the extra mile to make sure I got my product. So, and they did that on their own. They don't owe me nothing, and I don't owe them nothing. So, and we're going to put that back together. We're going to get this coated as well. Like I said, don't be bashful. This can get a little bit messy. See, the grease is just going everywhere. It's just the way it is. And then we're going to put this through. And we're going to grease up this piece as well. And we're going to snap it on. Quite honestly, you can clean up the excess grease and that'd be fine. Just leave as much grease in there as you can get in there, and don't remove what you don't have to remove. There we go. That looks pretty good. That little bit of excess grease, it's not going to hurt a thing. Just use some of it though to coat the rest. And these grooves, that's what I was talking about. Try to get plenty of grease down inside that groove right there. It's like a grease tunnel for grease to travel. Okay, I'll grab a towel and clean this up and you can see. Okay, so eventually what I'm going to do, in my case anyway, is I'm going to assemble these later as a unit. I'm going to do a frame assembly video where I'll put the upper and lower control arms on and the springs back in, and I might even throw the frame back on the car in the same video, but that might make it too long of a video, so we'll see. So in my case, I'm going to clean off as much of the grease on the outside that I can and keep it from collecting dirt and dust. When I assemble it, you'll see that I'll put grease back on this face, both sides, on all four of them, and I might even take my finger with a little bit of grease on it and put it in the frame where the bolt goes through, and then I'll do my assembly. But I'll clean this up and get it nice and clean and keep it from collecting dust and dirt, and do the next video. Do the upper control arms, and then we'll do the assembly. So now that these are cleaned up and complete, what you'll see is the purpose of this bushing. I'm hanging on to these outsides, and yet different than a rubber bushing, this is actually going to pivot now like a bearing. It's free spins. It's really going to free up the suspension, so that's what we're after. So I appreciate you guys watching the video, and we'll see you next video.